it by yourself. You know, you need others in this fight with you. Another strength I would say is that I'm persistent. I don't like to leave things undone. I think when you start things sometimes and you don't finish it sends the wrong message. You know, you're a starter, but you're not a finisher. I'm an avid baseball player. I'm competitive. I'm competitive at everything I do. I think one of my weaknesses is that I'm a workaholic. You know, when I was part-time at the union, I would get off work at 3:05 and then I'd be at the union till 7 o'clock because I want to help people. You know, if it was 4 people or 5 people sitting outside the office, when 5 o'clock came, you know, some people would get up and leave, but the people stayed, so someone had to help them. So to my detriment, I think me being workaholic and just wanting to be that finisher, sometimes is not a good thing because we all need rest. We all need rest, and sometimes we need to get rest to come back and fight another day.
Also, I'm just more for my curiosity, I see that the word change has been a lot in your speeches and has been thrown a lot. And I guess I would like to know, or I guess a lot of the teachers and students would like to know, what is the difference, when you say change, what does that entail? Can you give us specific examples of what change is? Because we've seen, especially in the Obama election, the change has been thrown a lot, but people weren't very sure or didn't have an idea of what that meant. So if you can give us a certain, like, a list of what would lead to change, what are those things are?
I'll start, I guess. I mean, yeah, change is too often bandied about just in this generic, general sense, and it doesn't mean anything specific. I mean, change for the Newark Teachers Union would mean, you know, hopefully a new director of organization, you know, maybe even not be existent, maybe even that position would not exist as it has in the past. It would need some new legal leadership. We need to be very clear about that. The current legal team is loyal to the old president and has his old values and his conservative sort of view of everything. That's structural, basic change. We need to change in how we mobilize the membership. We need to be out talking to teachers on a regular basis, not just to talk to them, but to get them active and to get them to see how the union connects with their daily lives and to see what a union can be, to give them a sense of what a union can be. Nobody seems to have that sense. So that needs to be a change, and we need to be doing a lot of different specific things to make that happen, be it phone banking, and I don't mean just for elections, I mean phone banking to get people out to rallies, phone banking to get people out to advisory board meetings. Unions should be constant hubs of activity for this activity or another. We can talk about trying to get more members signed up to be full dues-paying members. The reality is many of our members won't even vote in this election because they're not full dues-paying members, and they don't want to be full dues-paying members because they've had bad experiences with unions in the past. We need to change their entire perception of what unions can and should be, and why they should work for the union and be constantly active in the union. Change would also mean the president getting paid a little less, because the president has been overpaid for quite a while. You know, there's some other specific changes as well, but those are some biggies. And for the public as a whole, I think you would expect the Newark Teachers Union to become a more active force in local life. The Newark Teachers Union has been conspicuously absent from the social movements of what's going on in Essex County and Newark, and that needs to change. The NTU needs to be active with everything from the fight to defend Maryland to Zuniga, the teacher who's under attack in Orange right now. We need to be fighting for $15 now. We need to be doing lots of things, fighting for a national jobs program like the People's Organization for Progress. That COP was a great example. They spent 1 year, 381 days, doing a national, trying to get a national movement for a jobs program. And had the NTU supported that and had hundreds of members out there on the streets, that could have fundamentally built a movement in the city of Newark. And because we were absent from stuff like that, the movement sort of petered out.
I agree with what Mr. Rippey said about the legal, that director of organization position. I agree that it needs to be eliminated or the person in it needs not to be there. I agree with Mr. Rippey about the legal being loyal. He is loyal at the present time to who's in place, but I do believe that he would be loyal to whoever wins this election. I agree that possibly he needs to go as well. I think the pay of the president has to be in line with the president's credentials. Why would the president leave a teaching position from a 10-month to a 12-month to lose money? I mean, I don't think that doesn't make sense. You know, I understand that the current president, yeah, he does make a lot of money. You know, for someone who make a lot of money and not there, not doing what he should be doing, I think pay should be commensurate with what you have. It goes along with your teacher's salary. The community piece, he's right. The present leadership, and let me be clear, I'm the secretary treasurer. When I went back into the classroom on December 8th, I separated myself from the present leadership. So when they say leadership, I know Brandon's going to attach me to them because of my title as secretary treasurer, but I've never been a part of the leadership. And when they found out that I wasn't playing the game that they wanted me to play, that's when things went awry. You know, they needed me to get back in, and then when they felt they didn't need me anymore, okay, well, let's do things to get this guy kicked to the side. So, you know, I opted to go back into the classroom. So that community piece, they tried to get into the, when I say community, the AFT, they have alliance that they were trying to get into the union for a very long time on that community piece, and they just wouldn't do it. So I did it. You know, I did it on my own. They didn't like it, but once it was done, it was done. I think we need to talk about transparency. We definitely need to be transparent. That's one of the big things that I can say Brandon and McCarthy have pushed. They've spoken about transparency often. It can no longer be top down. It needs to be bottom up. We need to be listening. You know, we need to be doing things that the members want done. You know, and if we fail together. We fail as a team, opposed to Brandon or I making a decision and then it doesn't work out. Now membership is upset with us because they weren't a part of the process. You know, and the last thing is that definitely have to be in the building. You know, in order to get these people support, you have to be in the building. You have to go in there, you have to talk to them. You have to sit with them. When they have issues, you have to go. You can't say, call me. Get in your car and you go and you deal with the issues head on. And when they see top people that are doing these things, they will become more comfortable and they will say, well, you know what? We got people that are fighting for us. We need to get behind these people and we need to have this movement that Mr. Rippey speaks of, because it can be done and it will be done. It's just a matter of time, but it will be done.
Thank you. I would like to get a little bit more into details of specific policies. Let's talk about one word plan. Tell us how it impacts parents, teachers, students differently, and how do you plan to address this as a president?
Well, parents, it's a travesty for parents because you have parents that have 2 kids, 3 kids. There was one guy who did the press conference out in front of Regal. I don't remember his name, but he had 5 kids. Tell him thank you. And his 5 kids, you know, they were in 5 different schools. You know, so for parents, it's a mess if you don't have money to. Well, first of all, you gotta have a car. Let's be realistic. A lot of people in Newark do not have cars. It's public transportation. So now you have to get on 1 bus, 2 buses to get your kids to school. Then you have to catch 2 buses home. Then you got to catch 2 buses back to get them. Then you got to catch 2 buses back to get the child home. You know, it's not a good program. You said parents, teachers,
And students.
and students. For students, it ruins the communities that we grew up with as children. Now, I was a bad child. I'm going to be honest. I was a very bad child. I used to talk a lot. I like to hype on people, and I could run extremely fast. So, you know, at the end of the day, if they caught me, I was walking with 15 other people. So I would say it. They said, nah, if you're going to beat on Mike, you got to beat on everybody. Now, what it does to students is they meet them at the bus stop, and they all get on different buses. I'll see you back here at 3:30, because one's going east, one's going west, one's going south. So for students, it doesn't build those lifelong relationships that we have when we grew up in school. You know, I still talk to people that I was in school with since 3rd grade. For teachers, what One Newark does is it puts us behind the 8 ball. Because I'm at Ivy Hill, and you know the students that were bred at Ivy Hill, because it's a certain child. But then you have the One Newark placing children all around the city, because to be quite frank, this is Cammy's way of saying public schools are no good. If I put all these kids and we spread them out, now all scores go down. If I infiltrate the magnet schools go down. And, that was the big push in Newark with the magnets. Those were the schools that always held us at the top because of their high scores. And now, with the One Newark plan, the flip side of it affecting the students, the parents, it affects the teachers, because now these children are coming in, they don't know the building, it's a different mentality, and then it affects us in our teacher framework, in our observation. So now all scores are going down, not all, but some building scores are going down, and One Newark is just a major part of a plan to just disrupt the city of Newark and its public schools, and to make it a charter system, as they did in New Orleans.
I would second all those things. I think, did you ask, what can we do about it?
How do you want to address this?
Yeah, that sort of comes back to the movement building thing. We need to build a class-based movement where we have lots of working class people from around the city who are, on board with us in our fight to stop One Newark. We need to stop, period. And we need to get rid of the busing of kids. We need to get rid of the common application. We need to get rid of it. Now, how do we do that? Well, we've got to fight for local control. That's the best way to do it. And that's the ultimate sort of goal, is to have local control. We've got to get rid of Cammy Anderson, of course, but that really goes along. The two are basically hand in hand. One is not exactly separate from the other. One might happen before the other does, but we need to build a movement. Again, it needs to be people power. We know Chris Christie has the money power. He has the political connections. He has, the Joe DiVincenzo's of the world. He has the George Norcrosses of the world. We've got to use our power that's not based on money, but that's based on our willingness to take action on a regular basis. So we've got to fight a real struggle to get rid of it. As far as I'm concerned, that struggle still, while it's growing, it's still barely begun. We've had the Coalition for Effective Newark Public Schools, which is now the Alliance, right? But the reality is that's still a small group of organizations, and it's not a mass-based movement yet. We need it to be a mass-based movement. There's 275,000 people in Newark. We need thousands of people in this movement, in this fight, hitting the streets. And we're taking the fight elsewhere, too. And not just in a few dozens. We need thousands of people being willing to go to these events, whether it's in Trenton, whether it's here, and also in places like Patterson, Jersey City, and Trenton, where there's, we need to control there, too. We need to build those sorts of alliances statewide as well.
I would like to first start answering your question. I know you had a little advantage and you answered both questions back to back, so I would like for you to start with this one. There is a clear path that leads to EWAs and EWPs. Tell us a little bit about that path and what can be done to slow it down.
The path? Well, the path is pretty convoluted and all over the place. It varies a little every single year.
Clear up the jargon just in case people.
Sure. So she mentioned EWAs, that stands for Election Work Agreement, which is the document, which is a template, but then principals have the right to tinker with it. That's given out to staffs at renew or turnaround schools, and they're told, well, you need to sign this document or you won't be in this building anymore next year. So the EWA varies, sometimes they have like an extra 40 or 50 minutes every day. They have to work some amount of hours, 36 hours on Saturdays. Nancy will be answering the question for me in a second, but I give you a chance. A certain amount of hours on Saturdays, you have to work a couple weeks in August, etc. It basically takes away your rights, etc. really limits your rights as a teacher and whatever contractual rights you had previously. But anyway, the youth stands for Educators Without Placement, which is what many of the folks who haven't signed the EWA have become. Not all of them, but many of them. And then there are youths who were created just because principals didn't want them in their buildings anymore, and they got rid of them because they didn't fit the mission of the school, whatever that meant, under campus principal autonomy sort of rules or initiatives. So if you ask about the path, I mean, the path is every spring for the last like 4 years, principals have gone to a certain amount of schools and they've said, here, sign these things or else. People are scared as hell, so a lot of people sign them. You know, again, there hasn't been leadership from 1019 Broad Street, and there hasn't been, you know, in a lot of cases, the building reps are not even good leaders in their buildings, that's sad to say. Something we're all working on, and the point is that the teachers end up signing, and it's been created this youth pool. So there's a youth pool which right now may have as many as 240, it may have less, more like 150, it varies, and you know, Mike Malaro is the guy who's most up on this kind of stuff, he'll give you, you know, different numbers at different times, but he says it's anywhere between 150 and 253 right now. And it's not Mike's fault, it's the fault of NPS, because they're creating chaos. So, you know, so that's the typical spring thing. That's what's been happening for the last 4 years, and that's the path, and that's the situation. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I guess more as in, can you tell us, like, do you agree with it, and what do you feel should be done to be able to stop those kind of policies or kind of contracts being out to teachers?
So, I mean, obviously, I don't agree with it. One of the things we need to do is we need to get all those youths back in classrooms. Most of them are perfectly good teachers. You know, I mean, there might be one or two who aren't, but most of them are perfectly good teachers. The reality is they're high up in the pay scale, so therefore principals don't want them on their line item budget. You know, and when they're a youth, they're not on the school's budget, they're on the district's budget. So we need to make clear that principals have no incentive to make these people permanent staff members. So what we want to do is we want to force, and this can be done on the NQ level, it also needs to be done on the building level, like membership needs to build solidarity within their own buildings. Like literally, the 50, 75 teachers in the building need to stand together and just stand up to the principal in unison sometimes. It can't just be the union rep. It has to be like a mass number of people saying, no, we will not do this. No, we will not transfer that person, etc. And all this is easier said than done, of course, but it's a process of building solidarity.
Thank you. Ms. I'm so sorry, you're both speaking. My first time meeting both of you. I know, it's you, you're trying to tease me.
What Mr. Ripley said is right on point. I just need to add a couple of things. When the youths first came about, the education without placement, it was when Kenny Anderson went into youth LIFO, which is last in, first out, where we had to do budget cuts. You know, some kids were moving out, they moved out of the city, they may have gone into charters, and the numbers just didn't support those teachers, you know, and that's where tenure and due process came in so handy for educators. So I remember distinctly being in Burgaw, and believe it or not, there was like a draft pick board where they put up the teachers that they wanted to keep, and they put the other teachers that were tenured that Cammy said you don't have to keep them, don't worry about, you know, LIFO, you can just put them in the pool. And they kept like maybe 7, 8, 9 non-tenured teachers at the school, and they put the tenured people in the pool. So that's how the Employee Without Placement pool started. So once it started, then it began to roll. Every year, principals were just throwing people in the pool. So right now, at my last count, there's 397 people in the pool. Of those 397, they placed them into buildings. Now, are they on the school's budget? Some are, the majority are not. And a lot of them are not working in their certification, you know, and then it gives us the problem where our current leader would say, well, if you're not in your certification, then you can't be observed. And you have people that want to be in their certification because they want to help kids. So when we talk about the Employee Without Placements, NPS says it's costing them $27 million. It cost them $30 million last year because we go off of an average of